Welcome to Around the Board, a show where four board game enthusiasts discuss board game topics and news. Today's show starts with us weighing in on game weight versus enjoyment factor, followed by our first look of Pampero. Then we'll mix it up with a new segment we like to call Tabletop Team-up. I thought we were going to call it Twister. Whatever. To sound out the show, or round out the show even, we'll play the classic play, shelf, trade. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado on my part, announcing your hosts for today's program, Daniel Connors, John Theismann, Chris Thomason, and Andy Barnett. This is Around the Board.
How's it going?
Hey, guys.
Hey. So, Andy, I got a question for you. Recently,
Yes.
you shared in our closed chat a picture of you playing Terraforming Mars, but
Indeed.
it was not your deluxe edition.
You know what? I
What
don't
gives?
carry that big behemoth with me everywhere I go. And
Then
so
you don't play the game. Like you have it, you have to do it, or it's nothing. It's that
Okay.
or bust.
it's that or bust. Now, I was at a
Right.
friend's house. I was at Tyler's house. We played his copy. I will say I'm hesitant to play my deluxe copy because I have not painted the little miniatures yet. And right now, cities are confusing with the special tiles. They all look the same to me. So I gotta make some adjustments.
So you're never going to play your copy.
Probably not.
That's right. Good.
I'll
Good
buy it
trans-
for $20.
That makes sense.
Andy, you know what you
Figured.
remind me of? You remind me of the people that will stream something that they already own on a Blu-ray. That's the equivalent. You're streaming Terraforming Mars when you have it, the deluxe Blu-ray right there.
Well, it depends what screen you're on. You can't. Your Blu-ray player's not with you on every screen. So
That makes sense. So you're one of those people too. That
Yeah,
makes
that's
complete
fine.
sense now.
you know what? It does make sense. Until we
Sounds
can
like,
find.
sounds like you're just slumming it with the filthy casuals. So
You know what we need to do is we got to figure out a way to play physical board games, but store them in the cloud.
Oh, I like this.
So we just
That's a
download them
$1
wherever we
idea
are,
right
and then we send them back to the cloud.
Yeah,
I think there's a Star Trek episode about that.
Probably so.
that's how Netflix got started.
That is true.
That's true.
I
Computer
honestly wanted
tea,
that back in
Earl
the day.
Grey.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into this because you know what everyone's here for. It's not us.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
That's right. You're right. Everybody's here for one reason, and that is to play the game. We divide it up into 4 unique segments. Which one of us will host each segment? A judge behind the scenes will give us points. Whoever receives the most points at the end of the game will get to sit on their soap throne and talk about whatever they want. So without further ado, let's get started. Here is round 1. Round 1. Fight.
All right. So round 1 today, we are going to talk about the balance of the heaviness of a game to the enjoyment level. Some people really like really light games and, like the things of that nature, family weight games. And then you got the really hard, heavy, deep games like 18xx or Die Mocker for those that are really old school. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm starting here, and I think we all know what I'm going to say. So, but maybe
It's a
not.
ride, baby.
Maybe not, actually. Let's hold up. I mean, if you've watched the show long enough, you're actually going to be a little confused because my favorite designer is the Good Doctor, whose games are actually not all that complex. Very simple. But what they do have is a ton of depth. You have to play them many times to even fully understand it. Even though you can explain the game in 10 minutes, it's going to take 10 plays to really master. So that is actually the truth of what I truly enjoy. That is the apex. That is the reason he's my favorite designer, because I want a game that's simple, because I have a bad brain, and I want to be able to remember to explain the game 3 months from now when I play it again. And so it needs to be simple to explain, but tons of depth where you play it over and over and over, and it's different every time. But on the other side, have I told you about this thing called 18xx? It's amazing and unbelievably complex-ish. Once you learn one, the beauty is there's like over 200 of these games, and they're all built off of the original framework. It's like a skeleton, a really, really robust skeleton with actually just a little bit of connective tissue. So once you learn that skeleton, you can play all of the games. Nearly infinite lifetime of games of these 18x games, which is a small amount of learning. So and in the enjoyment, the depth and the thinking ahead that 18xx has is amazing. So I am huge. It's funny. I feel like this is the first one we've talked about. You can't really like almost be for or against it. It's just kind of like what you prefer. So I love the apex for me is truly simple and not very complex, but a ton of depth. But at the other end, I'll also take a game that, while very complex, actually is pretty simple to execute round by round. And there are differences, and we're going to talk about a game later where it's just complex for complex, but that's a whole other story. So, Andy, what you got?
Well,
Wait,
Chris,
before we go to Andy real quick,
yeah,
I gotta ask this.
Oh, gee, here we go.
There's over 200 18xx games. How is that even possible? I thought
Correct. Okay, so
I thought there was like 1836, and then it would go on to 1900. Don't you run out of numbers in it?
Yeah, so that's what happened. Is right. This genre is so popular that yes, they ran. I don't think every year has been taken technically, and the years were based on. So, side note, well, not side note, but on topic. A piece that's important to this puzzle is the fact that all the games, because they're old man games, history and stuff really matters to the people who play these and the designers. So the maps and the companies within the game and all the stuff are historical to a particular region, and the date is based on a particular time frame for that region. So that's why not all the numbers have been taken, but then they'll be like, hey, I want to make one about Nebraska, but 1871 or whatever's been taken, and that's the number I would want. So it's called 18 NEB because of it. So that's how you can have more than 100 when there's only 100 years.
Boring.
That's fine.
Whatever.
I want to play
1839
on Mars. Can we do that?
No, because that's impossibly historically.
Well, you don't live in that alternate reality because the multiverse and all that. Daniel can explain on his turn.
I'm up for this.
But anyway, I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to tell you this. First of all, two things. One of the reasons we decided to choose this topic is, we always categorize games by different things, right? So we categorize them by player count, mechanics, theme. And one of those things that comes up from time to time is weight of a game. And so I got to tell you this real quick story. We may have addressed it on the show before, but it's just such a good story. I've just got to tell it one more time just in case we haven't told it. And that is a good friend of mine, Dave, and I were at Origins a few years back, and we were looking at a new game. At the time, it was the game Raids, which is actually a pretty light game. By Yellow, fun little race game where you are Vikings. But anyway, we went to the booth, and lo and behold, someone who was demoing the game, we asked them, is this a heavy game or a light game? And she picked up the box, and she said, it's not too heavy. Now you can just chalk that up to her being a booth babe. By the way, I found out booth babe, that is not necessarily an offensive term. I actually found the actual definition from the highly reliable source, Wikipedia. Booth babe is, quote, a female model hired to represent a product and interact with consumers at a trade, fair, or similar event. So there you go. I don't know if she was a model or not. But
so if you're at a board game and you think you're dealing with a model, you can just ask them what the weight of a game is. And then that's
and they'll tell you.
Yep. Okay.
But look, I got to get to my point here. So that's just a little story side note. Truth be told, I can't always tell if there's a right formula for whether a game is going to be good based on weight. I can't tell you. It's just there's something in a game that scratches something in my brain that I really like. A lot of times it happens with heavier games, but there's times it doesn't. Case in point, I've played a few heavy Euros. They were more like Euros because that's how I felt about them. Oof, I just didn't want to play it again. And one of those were going to come up on Play Shelf Trade later, and that was and I guess I got to give it another shot. Is Barrage. That's an example of one that I was like, oh man, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. But then there's plenty of others that I really love, like Feast for Odin, Clans of Caledonia. There's a bunch of heavy Euros that I really like. All in all, I can't say that it's proportional. I can't say if it's a heavy game, I'm going to like it. If it's a light game, I'm not going to like it. It really just depends. There's so many other factors. It's almost really a pointless stat for me. So there you go. The only thing it tells you whether it's going to take a long time or not, I guess. Dana, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think the weight of a game is something that's super important. I'm going to attack Board Game Jesus Tom Vassell here for a moment, because he is anti talking about the weights of the game because he thinks it has something like it kind of turns other people away. But I want to speak of the greatness of the community's collective deciding on using this term weight, because it truly does give us an indication of what we are about to open. Yes, To go back to my word I used earlier and that Chris likes to use, the filthy casuals may have no idea what weight is, and that's fine. That stat is not for them. If we tell them this is a 4 weight and they go, I don't know, that's fine. But if I tell, my friend Ryan Evans that this is a 4 weight, he's gonna be like, tell me more. If I tell him it's a 1 weight, he's gonna be like, shouldn't we have our kids around? Like, do you want me to bring over the kids? So like the weight is a very important stat that we highlight. And then and also we'll let you know if you're going to generally like a game or not. I am an omni gamer. I will play any game. I will play my kids. I will play Ticket to Ride Junior and enjoy it. And I will play 18XX and love it. And everything in the middle is perfectly fine. I'm never going to be scared away from something that is like too heavy or too light. But
you swing both ways.
That's right. So as I go more into my board gaming maturity, I am skewing more heavy because I've already experienced a lot of this medium weight games, and they're very like a mediocre at best. Sometimes they can shine. Sometimes, again, I'm an omni game. I'll play everything, but I think the more you're familiar with mechanics, the more you want to see more of that, the more you want to dig in deeper and deeper and deeper. So while everyone's path is going to be a little bit different, my path is definitely going heavier and heavier because that is what's going to provide the best depth and strategy in board games for me right now. So yeah. So John, what about you? Where's your? I'm super interested in hearing what you say because I think you're going to be the one offshoot from us all.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But honestly, I went through like trying to rack my brain about how I feel about different weights because a lot of times, as you know, I put theme above almost everything else with my game that gets me interested in it. But then it has to have the mechanics to back it up. As a matter of fact, my first thing I ever kickstarted was a game called, I had to write it down, it's a long name, the original Sherlock Holmes and his Band of Irregulars. And it's because I had read every Sherlock Holmes story of the original printing ever made. And so I'm a huge fan. I'm like, this cannot go wrong. I've got to get this game. And it looks beautiful. Okay. And then I get it. It's a weight of 1.67 officially on Board Game Geek. And Go Fish is probably more interesting than this game, to be honest with you. It's a beautiful version of just here's some cards, try to get some of the cards. And you really don't have agency on even doing the set collection because it's so random. And so, yeah, it was too light. I played it a couple times and I sold it before it lost all its worth. And I really can't think of a heavy game that I've played that I've been that disappointed in or that I've hated as much as I've hated that game. And because I've enjoyed a lot, I have to be talked into playing them a lot. And there's reasons for that. I don't buy many heavy games, but I do have, these are both pretty heavy. Cangacieros and Jerusalem are both pretty heavy games. And they play completely differently. You have a whole bunch of different decisions to make in Cangacieros. Jerusalem, you have to play one card out of your hand. Like Chris was saying, that's kind of a cool mechanic where what you're doing is simple. The thought process behind it and what that's going to affect in the game is where the complication comes in. And that's really where a lot of it is in Jerusalem. But it's a heavier game. There's a lot going on and I really enjoy it. So, and between that and then what other ones like Brass and Grand Austria Hotel, I really couldn't think of heavier games that I didn't enjoy in some way, shape or form. So there's that. However,
how about Keyflower, John?
I wouldn't really consider that a heavy game. That's maybe midweight. It's just not good. But moving on from that, the reason I don't play them much, I don't buy them much because they're always long and you have to get them to the table. And I want playability. I want games that I can get played. And I don't really seek out to play them that often if I haven't already played them because of my huge case of GLA, game length anxiety. So because I'm always afraid I'm not going to enjoy it. And I could have played 3 games I would have enjoyed, guaranteed, but I chose to play this one heavy game that then I end up not liking, which is funny because I usually end up liking them. But
speaking of going too long,
that first half hour into the teach, you're doubting yourself. Like, am I going to like this game? Am I not? And so, like I say, when I have time to play them, I do enjoy the heavyweight games, to be honest. But I don't know if I don't really seek them out like Daniel does.
I'm actually surprised by this, John. And what I'm actually hearing, and I think Chris is happy to hear this too, is you want to play 18XX with us next time.
Not necessarily.
but in all honesty,
no, please.
In all honesty, you actually should, John. But also, you fix this problem by playing the same game you already know you love and not playing a new game. So there's that. But in truth, not beating that old dead horse. I will say that there's one failing that BGG has for this. First of all, it's on a 5-point scale and not a 10-point scale, which drives me mad. That's just stupid. And also, we need to have a difference in complexity and in depth. Those are two very different things, but that one scale is what both are put on. And that really changes things. Because, for example, there ain't a whole lot of depth to Feast of Odin, but every time I played it, there's somehow more going on in the game. I don't know how it's possible, but every single time there's more on the board. I hate that game.
No, I agree
it's
with
such
you.
a good.
There's some kind of magic formula, and there's an old podcast called Dukes of Dice that they try to formulate this, because there has to be a better stat out there, and it's like depth to complexity. So if it's like super light but it's really complex, that's a horrible game. Right. And if it's super heavy but super complex, that can also be kind of a bad experience. There's this like X factor in the middle that like that's the goal. That's what everybody wants.
And that's kind of what I was going to in my original explanation is I can't really define it, but if complexity is there and if it itches that part of my brain, you know, when I know it, I see it, or when I see it, I know it. Exactly. Something like that.
Something like that.
What do you think? By the way, those of you out there, be sure and hit like, subscribe, and comment, and let us know if the weight of a game affects, your choice in what you play or do not play.
And spam BGG to fix the complexity system.
Round 2. Fight!
Today we're going to take a look at Pampero. We had the privilege of being given a review copy, and while our infrastructure isn't set up to actually do really quality playthrough videos, we wanted to make sure that the game was given the highlight it deserved. So we went to the Kickstarter page, and we're just going to let them explain how to play their game. It still is only going to be a 2-minute explanation, but they're going to do it a lot better than us. So here you go. This is how you play Pampero.
In Pampero, players compete to build a renewable energy infrastructure across Uruguay, build wind farms to generate energy, and create electrical towers to gain powerful bonuses and unlock more of your power grid. Each player starts the game with an identical set of action cards, which include things like building wind farms or electrical towers, fulfilling contracts, or moving bulldozers. On a player's turn, they place an action card from their hand to their action board, placing it in the leftmost available slot on the top or bottom of the board. Each letter matches a zone on the game board. A are rural, B are industrial and resort, and C is the major metropolitan area in Uruguay, Montevideo. Players can select between A and B in the top row, or B and C in the bottom row. The zone selected affects the cost of the action, and the zone on the board where the action takes place. Ouch! After 3 turns, a consolidation phase allows players to collect only the rightmost card from either the top or bottom row of their action board. All other cards remain on the board and cannot be used again on the next turn. Be careful to plan your actions carefully, so cards you wish to play more often are on the end of the row and accessible during consolidation. Players will eventually need to spend an action to retrieve all their cards, but starting over again on the action board means actions will be more expensive. The power grid and income, or PG&I board, is at the center of each player's company. As the game progresses, electrical towers are moved from the player's PG&I board to the main game board, unlocking greater potential. Contracts are moved from the game board to players' PG&I boards, generating income. At the end of the game, the player with the most money wins.
Well, in this next segment, it's all about a game that is not out yet. That's right, it's Pampero. It's currently on Kickstarter. We had a chance to play it, and Ape Games was kind enough, generous enough to send us a review copy to take a look at. They're not a sponsor, but they did send us this game, and we specifically reached out to them because we saw them at Gen Con, and it looked like a lot of fun. So I want to thank the folks there, including Kevin, who sent us the review copy, and in the future, we might get to do a little sit-down with the designer of the game. That would be one Julian Pombo. I'm probably not pronouncing his name completely incorrectly, and so forgive me, but that is who we're going to talk to potentially in the future. But first, let's talk about this game a little bit and tell you what we think about it. I was able to play one full playthrough, and as is the case with a lot of heavier games, during the explanation, I was kind of snoozing. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, and I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But as it turns out, the more I played the game, the more it felt pretty good. I really enjoyed the mechanic of being able to play cards in different zones, an A, B, or C. And also, they cost more to play them in the different zones. So if you play a card in an A, it's going to be cheaper than playing it in a C. But the benefits of playing it in a C are much better. And I thought that was kind of a cool mechanic because you can choose at any time where you're going to play these cards and do different things. The question I had after one play is whether or not everything was as balanced as it should be. There was a little bit of concern with that. So in this game, you're placing windmills and power lines, and you're basically trying to run an entire country, the country of Uruguay, I believe, by wind power. And so interesting enough, early on, it can be pretty powerful. As it goes on and there's more strain on the system, you start to realize, maybe this wind power isn't all it's cut out to be, which I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I thought it was kind of thematically kind of interesting, actually. But no, the question is are some of the power tiles balanced enough? Now, the way these things work is when you played power lines, you got to select two different power tiles. They have to be adjacent to each other, and there are duplicates of each one, I believe. And so some of them really teamed up well together if you got both of them. And so the question was, is that a little unbalanced? I almost think one of the solutions I thought I came up with that I don't know if you guys agree or not, but is that we make sure that those two tiles that can team up together really well aren't right next to each other when you place them out there in the grid. So that's just one question I have. But otherwise, I really liked how it came together. It seemed to have some new mechanics in it. It did maybe feel like it was dragging a little bit toward the end as far as length of game. But then again, that could be that we were just, two of us were brand new to it. And the rules were, the rule book was a little bit lacking for sure. But we were able to find some play it videos online and stuff that helped significantly. And we were playing it late at night. But I left it wanting to play it again. I left it wanting to try it again. Anytime a game makes me want to play again immediately afterwards, that's usually a really good sign. So I think this game has promise. It's a heavy Euro with some interesting, unique mechanics. That is Pampero, and those are my thoughts on it. Daniel, how about you?
Yeah, before I get into mine, I just want to say something real quick. Randy and I are the ones who actually read the rules and figured it out. And the rules that were in the box were not the final rules at all, which led to some of the confusion. So don't hear us criticize the rules at all. If that comes out, just know it was a prototype. And we actually don't know what the official rules are going to be. But when we found them online, the rules online were a lot more straightforward than what we had. So the rules are probably...
I would never criticize the rules. I was only criticizing you and Randy.
No, fair. That we'll allow. So, all right. So guys, the Pampero for me was a game that seemed really exciting. I was really stoked for it. I really like the heavyweight games. And when Andy put this on his list in Gen Con, I kind of didn't have a lot of interest into it because the theme of the windmills or whatever, I was like, not a big deal. But then when I saw the box was the size of Gloomhaven, actually, it's not quite that big, but it was pretty big. I was like, oh, I'm all of a sudden more interested in this than I thought I was. So we got the game out and it looks beautiful. The double layer boards are wonderful. And then I started reading the rules, and the rules are really cool. Andy said it about the card lane mechanics where you play in the A and the B and the C. Really genius idea. I love that mechanic and I want to see that in more games. It was a really fun thing about how long do I leave my actions on the board so I can get cheaper actions later, and when do I pull them off because I want to take this action again. So really great things there. But in the end, I did leave the game feeling a little meh on it. And largely it's because the more times we played it, the more times we realized that there was probably a single strategy to go towards. We really had to emphasize the building the towers, because you had to build towers before you can build windmills, before your income can go up, and before you can get contracts on the board. Essentially, if you want to do anything in this game, you have to move up those contracts, which then tells you that you have to move up the towers, which says you have to build the towers. So when you play a card, if you have the ability to play the tower, you just have to do it. You don't really have another option that is actually a viable strategy, in my opinion. So once we all came to terms with that, we're like, okay, great, build towers. Well, now we're building towers, and now we realize that solar contracts are actually immensely more powerful than all the other contracts, because you get them when you play a tower. So if you play a tower and you get a contract, and that contract goes on your board, which gives you a bonus, and then that bonus moves up your income track, which also gives you a bonus. You have to take that action. Or I could build a windmill. I can build a windmill, which gives me 2 energy. So what would you like to take? Would you like to take the action that gives you 2 energy? Or would you like to take the action that lets you take 8 different actions in a game that only gives you 3 actions per turn? You have to build the towers. It just is. So yes, in the game, it was ultimately enjoyable. Ultimately, I had a fun experience, but by the end of it, it was a little exhausting and it felt a little one-dimensional, unfortunately. Maybe after 20 plays, that would change a little bit, but honestly, even if I owned the game, I probably wouldn't play it 20 times. So for me, it's a meh. So yeah, that's it.
John,
So,
what do you think?
I was waiting for
Since
the big
Daniel's
finish
just going to leave us with it,
I
man.
was waiting for the big drum roll finish there.
No.
Surprisingly, maybe I enjoyed it more than Daniel did. Of course, I only played the one time, and it was with the teach from him and Randy. And I remember looking at my watch at 9:30. I'd been up since 4 o'clock that morning, and it's 9:30, and I think we're halfway through the teach because I'm looking at my board. I'm like, I still have no idea what a lot of this does, and so this teach is not even close to being over. But surprisingly, when I got into it, unlike Andy goes into it wanting to win. It's the first time he's playing, and he wants to win a game. I just let me do some mechanics. Let me see what these cards do. Let me see what happens when I pick them up. Is that a good thing? Is that a good idea? Let me try it and see what happens. Well, it can be a good idea because you can like sneak in some extra actions and then you can do it again the next round. So I want to find out the strategies of, the plus and minuses for doing different things. And then I started trying to figure out how to get points out of it. I'd say about halfway through the game, I started trying, okay, I can do this. How can I turn this into points? And I came away actually thinking it's pretty thematic for as complicated-ish as the game is, that you need the towers out there. And if you don't have towers, even though you produce energy, you have to pay another player to use their towers in that area. That makes sense. That's thematic. That I was seeing towards the end of the game where the theme is coming from. And you need batteries to supply the people in the rural areas because you can't put towers there. You're going to have batteries. So you're producing batteries. If you're producing batteries, you're going to be able to get stuff other people can't do. I thought, yeah, if unlike other games, like I was saying, I've enjoyed other heavy games. Brass was one of the ones I mentioned. Brass, I enjoyed playing. I could not begin to tell you how to play Brass. There is nothing intuitive about Brass. There is nothing that really makes sense and clicks halfway through the game. I understand why I have to do X, Y, and Z. I never understand. I remember I have to do X, Y, and Z. That's where a game like this, I think, is better than Brass because you do halfway through the game. Well, that makes sense. That's why I have to do this before I do this. Games like Brass, where there's really no connection there, still a quality game. I still enjoyed my play of it. But yeah, this game, I feel like I could teach you how to play Pampero. And that was one play, and with having one teach taught to me in a very complex game-ish, if you want to call it that. I think it looks more complicated than it is, to be honest. I think you look at your board, you see all the stuff you're moving around, and you're thinking, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? And then, oh, I can put this here, and that gives me this, and I move up on that, and it's pretty simple when you read the terminology and all that. So I would like to play it again myself. I found my play enjoyable, and I would play it again.
Yeah, that's high praise from John, saying that this overcomplicated board looks like it all comes together pretty well, because it does look overcomplicated and there's a lot of options, but you're right, John. It does streamline it and it makes sense.
I didn't want to say, I didn't comment on how beautiful it is. It's a beautiful game. The map is great. The way they put it on, they don't just put it on there like, okay, here's your map from high school. It's a cool looking way they display the map. And it makes sense, like Daniel was mentioning, that there's more wind on the coast. So when you put your windmills there, they produce more, and it's also costs more to build there. So yeah, there's a lot of parts about it that I liked.
One more thing I like about having a board game collection is I like having games that represent different countries, and I did not have a game for Uruguay on my shelf. So there you go.
All right. So first of all, like when we first started talking about this game and seeing it for the board for Gen Con preview and stuff like that, this one couldn't have been farther off of my board because of how unbelievably complex the pictures looked. Like it immediately I wasn't surprised Andy liked it because it felt like Feast for Odin when he looked at it. It was just like crap everywhere, and you're like, what's going on here? But we'll get to actually how I feel in a minute. But again, initially I was against it for that reason. But I will say though, I'm glad I actually went last here. Normally I hate going last because usually by then it's like, well, everyone said everything there is to say, and I don't even know what I'm going to say now, right? But I will say that I was able to piggyback off of both Andy and Daniel here about how the theme maybe is like more beautiful and more ingrained and part of it than I ever gave it a credit for, because Daniel's like, he doesn't like the fact that you have to have the towers everywhere. Well, if you don't have towers anywhere, you don't have power. Okay, so you're intuitively, based on theme, forced to get all your towers out. Oh, okay, I can actually get behind that now that I think about it that way. And then the fact that Andy talked about how inefficient wind power is, because we all know it's actually a crapshoot. It's not useful at all. And in the game, I'm all about high economic games. That's not a surprise. That's how I like. I'm all about playing the games where on turn 4 you pay $5 for something that's going to return $1 over the next 4 rounds, which is technically a loss of $1, but it's worth it because of the way the build up, the engine of games work. This one, it just tells you wind power sucks, because you pay like $17 for something that's going to net you maybe $5 by the end of the game. And what? I don't even understand. The math doesn't make any sense. And then the way you really make points is actually selling the contracts from the energy that you bought that was inefficient, that somehow is enough to feed these people. I don't know. That part still doesn't make any sense, but it does shine on the fact that you need towers everywhere to make energy happen, and that wind power sucks. But in regards to the actual fun and play of the game, I liked it. Like, it's weird. I've played it twice, and then talking with other people who've played it more, I talked about all these other guys around the table who've played it other times and their plays and different things. It does seem like there's maybe an imbalance with some of the cards that come out. Like, they're not all made equal, and it's not like, first of all, we start with stack A, which is this level of balance, and then by the end we're playing with stack F, and they're super powerful, but you only get them at the end of the game. That would work, but here it just seems like they're all jumbled together, and you could just have some like unbelievably powerful combos come out, or just crap, and that never feels good. So that particular part of the game is kind of like, maybe could use some work, in my opinion. But the game as a whole, it's enjoyable. Like, after I got done the first time, I was like, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this game. I felt a little underwhelmed because of how inefficient the engine was. Like, I was just like, I want to give this another game, but it was really ungratifying, like how inefficient the powerings, the engine building of the power was. And so I was like, this is weird, but I want to give it another try. And then by the end of the second, I was like, okay, I'm more okay with it because I understand how the game's going to work. It still wasn't super gratifying, but I still enjoyed it and would be willing to play it in the future. But again, like, I will have to admit, like, those cards, they do feel like kind of imbalanced and probably need some work there. But as a whole, like, I've not been on a roller coaster with a game on how I feel about it in 2 plays more than I don't even know. Like, even now I feel different about it while talking about it than I did before we started talking about it. So
I agree with Chris. Like, this is a game you have to keep playing, because I think you're going. So if you're a person who's like, I love to play the same game over and over and over again, I think there's going to be something here for you. If you're like a one and done kind of guy, this is probably not gonna like speak to you very highly.
But see, that's the sign of a good game, I think, is that there is going to be replayability. And a couple things that I have to piggyback off of Chris on now. And one is the fact that, the more I played the game, the more I question whether the designer was kind of trolling people over the fact that wind power is not the most efficient thing. Because it's like, it really did play out like that. And the other thing is despite that, you still have to put towers and windmills out there. Windmills specifically, you have to put the windmills out there. Even though they suck, you have to put them out there, because that unlocks all these extra things that you can do, like extra income and stuff. And it's almost like it was designed to say, oh yeah, this is like government incentives to do this, even though it sucks. We're gonna pump money into it. And so, if you put your windmill out there, we're going to give you more of this and more of that. And it's fascinating. I need to ask the designer if that was intentional or if it just kind of accidentally happened.
I know, watch him be like a big wind advocate, and we're going to be like,
he might be really offended by us saying this, but it just kind of played out like that. But to Chris's point as well, Daniel, you didn't like the power lines, but like he said, you have to have power lines to have power. Not everything's a Marvel movie where power has just come out of nowhere.
Well, they needed Tony Stark to develop whatever that arc reactor, and that would solve all this issue. So get on it.
I will say, I was going to say earlier that we're going to get so much hate mail from Big Windmill.
We will.
That's right.
Big Wind is going to be out to get us. Big Wind.
So if you're a Big Wind, let us know that you're offended by this, but leave a comment, and hey, maybe Hansa will read it when he returns.
Ooh. It would be nice to get some mail
eventually. Hansa's been without a job, guys. We need Hansa back. Give us a good comment. Tell us how wrong we are. Tell us how right we are. Make fun of Andy relentlessly. Whatever it takes, but let's get Hansa back.
Mail@aroundtheboard.net. Mail@aroundtheboard. We'll be right back.
We'll return
Nice.
after
That was
these
good.
messages.
All right, guys, it's the time you've all been waiting for. We met so many cool people at Gen Con, and we are super excited to give away a couple of games. We just found so many cool people. John, who were some of your favorites that you ran into? Do you remember anybody in particular that really just, got your attention?
The lady that was always calling out Daniel because he wasn't there. That was the best. That son of a bleep. Where is the blue bleep? Why isn't he here?
She was not happy that Daniel wasn't
she
there.
was not happy.
That
She
was
somebody
a
who-
self-fulfilling prophecy, however, started by Andy. So
It was.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't know at the time, but it was.
You
Hey,
didn't
I got a fan club. What can I say? I mean,
That's
I like
true.
myself, so why wouldn't everybody else?
There's no way around it. So
I enjoyed. We met. I mean, we really did meet some cool people. We met everything from. We had a lot of cosplayers that came up and talked to us. Do you remember that
That's
one
true.
night they were coming back from like a dance or something, and they were hanging out with
Oh,
us, and they
yes.
were. What were they dressed
one-
as? Characters from Five Nights at Freddy's, I think, or something
No.
like that.
Then there was that girl that came up to us with the origami she kept making. I don't
Oh,
know what
yeah,
the deal
that was
was
cool.
with that. She was like waiting
was
for her
really
friends, and she was wanting to make them some more. Tell me something to make. And she would just make stuff. It's like, man,
I love the
get a few
family
beers
from,
in her. She can do anything.
There was a family from Wisconsin who was quite the crew that were fun to talk to
They
as
were
well.
really
Anyway,
fun.
so many cool
They're a
people we
little
met.
cheesy.
I wish we could give a prize to each and every single one of them. Unfortunately, we can't. What we will do, though, is award 2 prizes right now. So first, our runner-up prize, we're going to throw in a copy of Ticket to Ride San Francisco.
Chris
And
is
let's go ahead and
seal of approval.
get it started. Let's pick a winner.
Who could it be?
That is going to be Matt Salima 5695. Congratulations, Matt. You are now the proud new owner of a copy of Ticket to Ride San Francisco. Thank you for subscribing to Around the Board. Now, John, what are we going to do for the grand finale?
Well, first I'm going to fix my camera.
you moved it again. What are you
I
doing?
keep banging my table, but anyway.
All right, maybe I'll just pass over you and go straight to Chris.
Now here we go. We're going to give away a copy of Earth, baby. Not this one, but a brand new one. Yep.
This is the hotness. This is the
hotness.
hotness.
And all of us on this show love Earth.
Yes.
Or do we?
It's the
Watch our
notness,
review.
that's for sure.
It's okay. It's okay.
I like it anyway.
It's fun. And it's the hotness. So let's do it.
Is it hot because of climate change?
Omicron 145! You are the winner of Earth! Congratulations! Thank you for being a subscriber, and thank you to each and every single one of you who joined the program to try and win a game. I promise you we'll give away more games in the future, and I promise you you will be entertained, or you won't.
That's right.
That's a good promise.
Appreciate the Futurama reference there, Omicron. So
All right, we're back, and, well, let's get right into why people are here.
It's game time.
Would you like to play a game?
Shall we play a game?
Okay.
I feel like I should have got more points in the first round. Just saying.
Well,
Randy's the referee, so.
that's right.
True.
I hate that guy.
Fight! All right, so what does this script say? Oh, this is the part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song.
No, it's not, Andy. I'm
Oh.
sorry. That's a great intro, but not for this.
Oh, okay.
This is the time where we do Tabletop Team-up. It's a new segment for us, guys. Is everybody excited about Tabletop Team-up?
Oh man, see, I must have missed the meeting. I must have missed the
think you
meeting
did.
because I thought we were going to call it Tabletop Twister. I even downloaded this. Listen.
Get you all twisted and tangled. It's a twister. Spin the spinner and
Wow.
Okay.
My favorite part about this is, Andy, is we never called it Board Game Twister.
It's also
My
correct.
other favorite part is the meeting you missed was probably called by you.
Probably so.
Also
But I
for-
just wanted to play the old Twister theme song. That was the old board game from like the 60s. Anyway, I'm sorry, John. Continue.
Thank you. This is Tabletop Team-up, which actually was inspired by Marvel. So Daniel should be happy about it. The old Marvel team-up where we always put Spider-Man with somebody else, teamed him up for a comic. Well, what we do in Tabletop Team-up is you take a board game, you mix it together with another board game maybe, or mix it together with an IP that maybe it doesn't have, whatever. You do something to improve a board game by teaming it with something else. So that's Tabletop Team-up. And I think I'm going to change things up here a little bit. Usually the host goes first, but I'm going to send it around the board and go last because I really want to see what everybody else does first before I go on the line with mine. I'm going to usurp the authority and send it to Chris as we go around the board.
You can't just change the rules. We can't just
I think I just did.
do it live.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I love how about everything about the last 10 seconds was actually like just OG around the board. Like when we started, it was you started it, and then we'd go around the board, and then Andy would do it live every single time he could.
Every time.
Everything about that was OG around the board, so that's fantastic.
Throwback,
kind of a
baby.
Exactly. So, all right. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to let the people pull back the curtain here. So what the origin of this segment was, we were driving back from Gen Con, and we were just kind of talking about things organically and stuff like that. We started talking about Downforce, and I was just like, yeah, it's okay. Like, it's a fine game. It's fine, but it's missing something for me. And for me, the reason it's missing something is it feels like you just need to get lucky and get dealt the best cards, so to speak, or most cards for a single color, and then bet on yourself and win. And then you're going to win because you're going to bet on yourself and you're going to get the win from the win. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel super great. Like it's not the spirit of the game where you're supposed to be bidding on the winner. And so, I mean, a very simple fix for that I've always said is just it has nothing, you're not a car. You're just betting on the cards being played, but that's a whole other story. So I was like, well, what could we do to fix the cards? And I was like, well, what if we do a drafting mechanism? And yeah, there's kind of standard drafting, kind of like Seven Wonders, or that they originally came up with for Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. And then I was like, well, what if we used the system from Stockpile, right? Where there's the different piles, and you kind of have the little board, and you're like, okay, I'll go in the 0. So I got outbid, and then you kind of go around. And so maybe you deal the cards out all face up. And then I thought that, I was like, well, maybe that'll help. And then we started talking, and then we got here to where we're doing this segment. But since then, I've got to thinking, I was like, well, that still doesn't fix the problem, because unless you're an idiot, even if you don't win the pile with the best cards, you're still going to bet on the pile with the best cards. So I'm not even sure that actually fixed it anyways. But regardless, I want to try to figure it out. That's a long story to say that my team up is Downforce and Stockpile, my game called Downpile.
Thank you.
What's the logo for that one?
Oh, I mean, I don't know.
The poop emoji?
Well, the guy's kind of like, guy's already kind of like sitting right, so maybe just kind of like angle him up and then just right. I don't know.
I like it. Well, so to be honest with you, I didn't give this one as much thought as I'd like, but I what I started thinking about is, and I didn't get into specific games, so to speak, but I got into the two types of games I really, 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 really like, right? So I like a heavy Euro game with a lot of tension. So a game for me that I really love is Heaven and Ale. I love most of the UI games because they have that tension, especially the original Agricola, which I know some of you guys just hate, but the best thing about that is if you didn't feed your people, man, you're going to die. You got to feed your people. That's like, in fact, some people describe that game as feed your people or die. I mean, that might as well be the game. But anyway, there's a lot of tension. What's that?
Misery Farm.
Misery Farm? Okay.
Misery Farm. I like it.
I like that. We could do a play off of the state of Missouri too. Anyway, so I like the tension in some of those heavy Euros. And then the other thing I love is I love me some hidden role games like Secret Hitler and Avalon Resistance and the like. And so I was thinking, I was like, what if we could combine the tension of a heavy Euro with a hidden role game? And what you're doing is you're scrutinizing people's decisions in this heavy Euro game, because you're going, are they making this decision because they know something, or it's because they're just an idiot? Are they trying to throw us off? And it's like, anyway, some way to combo up the idea of a hidden role game with a heavy tension Euro worker placement game. Could it ever happen? Does it exist? What do you guys think? Could that take place? I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are.
So you're somehow mechanizing just my thought process anytime I play a board game.
Yeah. Maybe.
What are they doing here? This doesn't make any sense.
What is going on over there?
So I like it. I don't know how you do it, but I do like the idea of somehow mechanizing that. That sounds great.
There you go. There's my tabletop team up.
So I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit here, guys, because this was hard for me. This was really tough. And when they told me their ideas, I was like, so you want me to take like two board games and mash them together, like Dominion and Area Control? Oh, that already exists. It's called Tyrants of the Underdark. Or should I take a Euro and a social deduction and mash them together? Oh, that exists too. It's called Deal with the Devil. So I am going to actually, and then also they were like, so then they were trying to explain it to me. No, it's like fixing a game. So I'm like, so you want me to come up with house rules for a game? Didn't last episode we just all agree that house rules are horrible? So despite my protests, we're going to be doing this segment, and we have been doing it, but I could not mix two board games together because I'm not a board game designer. I have no idea. So what I'm going to do is instead is default to my favorite thing ever, and that is Marvel. I'm going to put Marvel on the theme of a game, and I will tell you, even that's already been kind of done, and that is with this
like 1,000 times.
right here. Age of Heroes. It is a Euro about the X-Men. I am complete. I am done. But okay, no, but really, this would be my pick. My pick is Terraforming Marvel. All right. So you could take Terraforming Mars. Hear me out. And on the board, instead of a planet, you have a blank comic book page with a bunch of panels on it. And all over the time, you are constructing the panels. You are building together the best story via, like different backstories. That would be like kind of like the three things that you have to terraform. So you're doing compelling backstories. You're doing adversity to overcome, and then you're becoming the ultimate villain. And once you get all three of those placed onto the board, that would be, you've terraformed Marvel. You made one of the best comic books collectively you've ever made. But just like comic books, there's always a better writer than this person or that person. So you ultimately become the Chris Claremont of the game. And so that means you win because you are the best comic book writer for the X-Men. So here we go. Terraforming Marvel. Make it happen, Stronghold.
You know what
that idea.
You know what the word terraforming means, though, right?
Yeah, it means making. I don't. I know nothing.
It just means making it livable like Earth.
Yeah,
Earth-like.
Yeah, make Marvel livable again.
There you go.
Make Marvel. I can get behind.
So you're talking about the current status of the movie universe? You're right.
I'm actually talking about the current status of the comic book universe.
Yeah.
I haven't read comics in a while because they've hurt my soul.
Make Marvel great again.
Jokes aside, what you're saying, Daniel, though, I think I like the idea, except I think it should just be of canvas. Because you kind of like build the picture together with the different layers. So then it's this frame plus this frame plus this frame.
That's a lame game. Okay, that's a lame game. John, what do you got?
Chris, shut up.
Did Chris
was that
guess John's game?
Are you serious?
We'll find out. Well, now you took away some of the surprise.
Yes!
Mine focuses on a game on a past previous great game debate. I wonder what game that could be that two of us really didn't like. No. Like this. So you say that games where you spend your turns making frou-frou pieces of art and following your own creative instincts just don't seem like the right experience for you? You want to add some adventure and danger into your game night? Well, I've got the game for you. We've combined a great game, redesigned paintings, with a classic dungeon crawling adventure. Introducing Canvast.
Oh, nice. You did some work. Well done, sir.
Wow.
There it is. In
Very
Canvast,
nice.
You take on the role of a rugged artistic knight such as Franck the Fearless or Bruce the Baroque as you enter a series of crystalline caverns in search of the dragon guarding a rich bounty. Not only must you overcome obstacles and foes along the way, but when you reach your destination, you must then use layered transparent cards you've collected along the way to piece together a painting that best describes your journey. Whoever is playing as the dragon awards treasure to the artistic knights who present the most impressive pieces. Canvas for 2 to 5 inspired spelunkers.
All right, John just won the whole show today.
And I know.
Well, not only
now
that,
you guys know whose
done.
idea this was. John had something in mind.
This
from
wasn't
He
my
even
idea.
made a
This was
card.
Andy.
Yeah.
I even have some cards that would look good for that.
Wow.
And then look at this. This one's actually called Vast Game. How about that?
What?
Man, I stole your segment and you still
I
won.
know. I'm like
I don't know how that happened. That was incredible.
My gosh. I actually, until you mentioned it, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Oh.
And then
Wait, what?
What?
That doesn't make any sense.
until you mentioned Canvas, then I threw everything out and did this.
So, wait, you made that in like the 30-second? That's
Yes.
okay.
Yes. It was editing. It was editing.
Sure.
Well, John, congratulations.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us what you have out there. I'm sure you have some ideas of some games that would go well together. Help Daniel out. Give him a good idea. And please post it in the comments down below.
My idea was
you
great.
like and subscribe.
Wonderful. Terraforming Marvel.
Round 4. Fight!
All right, well, we're back to our favorite segment, our trademark, the one segment that makes us different from everything else out there, because otherwise we're exactly the same as everyone else. Okay, that is Play Shelf Trade. All right, so we like to kind of theme the episodes a little bit. So we reviewed Pampero and we talked about heavy games. So we got to Play Shelf Trade some of the 3 heaviest games about energy. So we're going to do this a little bit different though. What we're going to do is I'm going to start with one of my choices and then we're going to go around the board with what that choice. So I'm like, example, Power Grid. That's the one I'm going to start with. And then once I say what my Play Shelf Trade is, the next person's going to as well. So, and then we'll go to the next game and we'll go around the board again. So the first game I want to talk about is Power Grid. Power Grid is one of the classic auction games, and it's about just getting the grid of a different country to be up and running and you being a part of it. And for me, this game has reemerged itself as a top tier game. So I am going to say, I would have put this one on my shelf because I want to keep it forever, you know, but right now I'm so hot on this game. That's going to be my play. So Power Grid is 100% play right now. Right, like right this moment, Chris, if you come over, I will play it with you, and we're gonna play the expansions. We're gonna play the little. Thank you for coming, Chris. We're gonna play the campaign cards. We're gonna do it all. I want to experience this game from start to finish. Power Grid is my play. John, what about you? What's Power Grid lie for you?
So I don't say my play. I say what Power Grid is for me.
Yes, exactly.
That ain't my play. Power Grid.
Lovely.
Power Grid. As I explained before, how I have game length anxiety, especially in a game that looks like Power Grid. Power Grid is old. It looks old. It comes in a weird box. It's long, and it looks like a job. Every time I've seen people play it, they look like they're working. And so Power Grid is immediately, it's like number 3 with an anvil on my list with these games. So it is definitely my trade. It is going bye-bye. Bye-bye, Power Grid. Daniel can have you.
Chris, what about you?
All right. So first of all, John, like I love, I mean, again, people's opinions are their opinions. And it's fine. But I really do think you need to give it a try. It's, again, I like it it's the Knizia factor. It's an old game, so it was super complex back then, but actually now it's pretty light relatively. It's like medium at best, but it has tons of depth. So you should give it a try. But most of all, I love your take about how you just hate the box. You hate the frame and freeze box. I love it. I don't know why. It's so great. Anyways, so I guess I don't need to make it my play right now because apparently I'm going to get a play no matter what I do with Daniel. So fantastic. So I'm going to put it on my shelf because it is my number 1 game. I had it ranked as a 10 before we did the show, but I wasn't really sure what my number 1 game was. I mean, the show as a whole, like around the board, the entire show, not this show. But then over the course of the show, I've realized it's my number 1 game. So it definitely has to be my shelf because it has to be with me forever. So Andy, what you got?
Well, I think you guys know I'm with John on this one. I've had too many bad experiences with Power Grid. It was an early game, one of the early games I owned. I played it a lot, but it was ruined by playing with, frankly, my brother, who's a CPA and can figure things out. And part of it is, well, I don't want to completely throw him under the bus, but I will, because he'll never watch the show. If he figures out mathematically he can't win the game, he's done. He doesn't want to finish playing the game. He's such a poor sport. But no, it's just too much math for me. It just felt like work. John put it perfectly. And I felt like that of other Freeman Freeze games too. I played Factory Manager and it was even worse. I was just like, what am I doing with my life? I don't want to take an algebra class. I don't want to. No, this is horrible. This is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertaining. It's not. It was none of those things. I wanted it to be. I mean, I thought the theme was trying to be okay with the different forms of power and whatnot, but it just was a big miss for me. And I played it several times. I played it a bunch early on, and I replayed it not too long ago, and again felt the same way. Now I will say this caveat with it, and that is that I have not played very much on any of the other maps besides North America. Chris tells me that that's my big mistake and that I've screwed up because of that. So I guess
the absolute worst map.
I guess I need to try it again on some of the other maps, but right now, in its current form, my past experiences, boom, traded.
So I have to say one more thing about Power Grid before we go to the next one. So when I first got into board gaming, the people who I was playing with, they showed me this cover and they're like, look at this cover. What do you think of it? And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've seen. And they were like, no, this cover's hideous. How can you like this? And I'm like, I I don't know. I just do. So I know it's one of those like universally hated covers. I really like it. And I think running a power
Yes,
grid
pretty
sounds
good,
like a
Chris.
blast to play in a game, and it is. So there's my little sidebar. All right. So this play shelf trade has to be the hardest play shelf trade I've ever had. These are probably all top 20 games, if not top 10 games for me. So when I trade one away, just know that I would probably trade every game we've talked about ever, and to play these 3 games. So my next one on the list is going to be Barrage, and I'm going to say Barrage is my trade. I really enjoy Barrage, but it's just I think it's the tightness of it and the take thatness of it. It is really hard for people to truly get into that game and really want to play it over and over again. Also, there's like character powers that also don't always play well together. So out of the 3, I guess this is my trade, but just know I'm doing it with a tear in my eye.
That twinkles
Don,
like the
where's
little
Barrage lay for you?
That trickles down.
it twinkles like the little rocks that represent the water drops in it.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Oh,
They look
there
like
we go.
teardrops.
Very
I
good.
didn't even mean to do that on purpose.
I'm sorry. What did you say Barrage was for you? That's your
Barrage.
trade?
Barrage is a trade for me.
Okay, so Barrage for me, I've played it like 2 or 3 times. I think I've enjoyed my plays of it, and I think it's actually going to be my shelf, just because of reasons I'll explain later for the other one. But yeah, I've enjoyed every play of it. And I think it's very thematic for, like I was saying, a lot of times I always think these heavier games are going to lose their theme, but this one, it really keeps it. And it is a lot to take that just by the nature of the game. I mean, that's the way the game is set up to be. And you just know that going in. So it's, and thematically it works. It's like, no, I'm going to get all that water and I'm going to get all the energy out of it. And I'm going to spit one little water droplet out to you to that big 4 tall high dam you've got that you can't do anything with. Plus you can make all those, you can say damn all the time like you're cussing throughout the game. You know what I'm saying? Did you do that on your damn turn? It was, things like that. But that's always fun to do.
It is a fun
and for that reason, it's staying on my shelf. What you got, Chris?
All right. So for me, kind of in this kind of goes on brand with what we're talking about Pampero. Like Barrage is my trade because it was fine. It wasn't super gratifying, but it wasn't bad either. It was okay. And I feel like I've discovered everything with the game. Like there's, like with Pampero, I'm so like, I feel like I need to play it for more because to learn and find some more. But like I've played Barrage 2, maybe 3 times. And again, I'm just like, it's fine. It's okay. But I don't feel like there's anything left there for me to discover. While my play, which we'll talk about in a minute, I feel it has a lot more to discover. So Andy, what you got?
All right, well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so Barrage for me is an interesting one. I've only played it once. It was a long time ago, and I really hated it. But all that being said, I'd still rather play it compared to Power Grid because I hate Power Grid that much, which I know is just a sad thing because it's really a popular game with a lot of people, but not with me. Barrage, I need to give it another chance. I really do. I feel like there was some stuff there. It was heavy, certainly. When I was playing it, I don't know. I was playing with Daniel and John, I think, and they knew the game well or better than me, and I didn't at all. And I don't know. I didn't feel very connected to it at the time. But I need to give it another shot. I will say it left me in a state of confusion a little bit. And I just wasn't in a good place to play it that day. I don't know. If I had to compare it to Pampero, for instance, I like Pampero more. It felt like there was more to explore, but there may be something there with Barrage still, so I'll make it my play.
All right. And that brings us to our last game, and that's going to be Pipeline. And that is going to be my shelf. Pipeline is a really cool, thick, heavy Euro thematic game that has tile laying, but also economic engines. And it's just aggressive and in your face. And I really like that about this game. And it is something that I can keep going back to. I keep wanting to try it. Like every time I play it, there's like a new little route to victory I discover, or a new little tech tree that makes the gameplay a little bit differently. So I feel like out of all the 3 that we have talked about so far, this one has the most diverse place from play to play, and so it's worthy to be on the shelf to play over and over and over and over again. John, what about you?
Well, actually, Pipeline is going to be my play, and it's not one that I think is thick. I don't know where that Do they have it? Is that a description of games?
Yeah.
Something
Thick and thin. They're it's a thing I'm making. I'm
He
working.
likes his
you're,
games thick.
you're trying to do.
You know what I mean?
baby. Yeah.
I
So
don't.
anyway, but I've always thought Pipeline was a little bit odd though, how it's heavy, crunchy, economic type game, and then you got a little game of Waterworks going on where you're connecting these pipes together. You know what I'm saying? Like the old, hey, throw a wrench on your pipes. Yeah, it reminds me of Waterworks, the old game where you're just building pipes together, and it just seems like an odd mix, but it works. It is a fun game. One thing I've never done in it, you're talking about the different ways to victory, is what is the thing you attach to them to force more oil through the pipeline? There's like, what is it?
It's a machine. It runs it by
Is
itself.
that all it's called
Yeah.
as a machine? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just never had the guts to invest in any of those just because it just seems like such a huge invest.
Oh, and you could totally screw yourself with the machines too, because
That's what
you
I was
can't
worried
run
about.
it manually. You have to do the machines, and if you do it wrong, you just shot yourself.
Because as you might recall, my first time playing Daniel, when boom, I'm getting these contracts, and I'm like the first one to get like $50,000, and I think I ended with $52,000 because
Nice.
I did not spend wisely. I'm like, well, hey, I'm just going to reinvest, and it's going to just come back, and I'm going to get all this money. No, it did not. It did not. You can't just spend it willy nilly and figure it's going to come back. It does not.
Yeah,
be
it's
a
not like
kid,
real
but
life.
Yes, exactly. It's a little bit like real life that way. So, but it's been a while since I played it. Hopefully I will have relearned those things and won't forget my lessons from the past. But yes, Pipeline is my play. It's a fun game for sure. Old man Chris, what have you got there, buddy?
All right, so yeah, mine for Pipeline's also going to be my play as well. And I feel like in so many ways this is like Great Western Trail 2.0 for me, especially because like Ryan, our good friend, like he just thought Great Western Trail was the greatest thing ever since sliced bread when it first came out, and I was like, it's fine. It's fine after the first time I played it. Now, granted, that very first play was kind of legendary as for a whole lot of reasons, just a lot of weird social dynamics that made that not a very good play. But after a few months later, I actually gave it another try, and I really enjoyed it. Now, to my knowledge, I think I've only played Pipeline once. Maybe I've played it twice. But each time I'm like, if it was twice, I've walked away just being like, I guess it's fine. Fine, I don't know, but again, maybe it's just not jiving with me, and maybe I need to give it a couple more plays, because since then I have played Western Trail, and I do see the Matrix, and I do see the beauty of that game now. So Pipeline's probably right there as well. I probably just need to play it a bit more and really love it. But since Daniel made it just obvious that this has to be my play because I get to play Power Grid for free already because he's making his play, yeah, I'll go give him this play. I want to find out more about it. What about you, Andy?
So, Chris, just to verify, that was your play was Great Western Trail.
Yep, correct.
Because I think you talked about that more than Pipeline. Anyway, Pipeline. I've got to get a prop. Hold on. Oh gosh, here we go.
All right, you're on the clock, man.
Here we go. It's worth it. Pipeline reminds me of one of my favorite NES games of all time, Gyromite, which you could play with Rob. Do you guys remember Gyromite?
Operating buddy.
That's right. That's right. And
I know
and
Rob
would
Smash Brothers. I never knew where he came from.
Oh yeah, Rob's, and I've got this original Rob right here.
Yes.
And Rob would hold the controller in his hand, and he would open up the pipes so you didn't get squished in Gyromite. So anyway, I don't know why I brought that up. I guess because Pipeline has pipes, but it's going to be my shelf. And I'm going to keep it on my shelf because I'm not convinced that I want to keep Barrage. I want to try it, like I said, again. I'm definitely not going to keep that abomination Power Grid. I mean, it's just puke, yuck, disgusting. And
that box.
So yeah, I'll keep Pipeline. It was a fun game. I've only played it 2 or 3 times, but I've enjoyed it. I think the first time I really played it wrong though, because I feel like our points were way off. Like I feel like Daniel, you had like 680 million points or something to my like 220.
That's how you know I taught it really well. When I do like lap people by 300 points or so, it's a sign of a good game. And a good teach. All right,
have
guys.
it.
So Nintendo NES is Andy's shelf.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, Play Shelf Trade is one of our favorites, and this was one of my favorites Play Shelf Trades to do. So I would really curious on what you would categorize these 3 games as well. Would you play Shelf Trade, Barrage, Pipeline, and Power Grid? Let us know in the comments below. But with that, guys, I think that wraps up the show. So it's time to look at the scores. I do want to say that Randy has it out for me because I was killing it on the first segment and I got no points for it. I think he was so enthralled with my soliloquy that he just forgot to give me points. So because of that,
Would you like a little cheese with that wine?
I would.
gotta
award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, Daniel, see, this is the truth
could've
that you're
just said I
truly
was
a
wrong.
Cubs fan, because everyone knows in sports it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the Cubs can never finish.
Oh, that's pretty low because aren't they doing really bad right now?
Yes,
Once
that's
they
true.
were just clinging to the wild card.
It's a burn of the show. I like it.
I gotta say, I think Daniel should have got a couple points just for the use of the word soliloquy and just like off the cuff, like it was nothing.
That's
We didn't
true.
take
He
three
has
takes.
problems with words like the most
We
of the
didn't
time.
need 3
So
takes
soliloquy,
for
impressive.
soliloquy. We're good, man. That
That's
should've
what
been
happens
3
when he
points
starts
right
reading the thesaurus every day.
That's right.
That's right. All right. Even though I think this is rigged and Randy hates me, I have to give it to Andy today. Go away. Take it away, Andy.
there. Go away, Andy.
Thank you so much. I will never go away. You can never rid yourself of me. Just remember that. First of all, I want to thank this award. I want to
Interesting.
thank Rob for this. I think Rob really brought it home here. And Rob, you are my official AI companion. I don't need AI. I just need Rob in my life. So I want to take a second to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the best Kickstarter I've ever backed. And I've just played it recently. I finally unboxed it. It's amazing, guys. It is the Castles of Burgundy Deluxe Edition. It is magnifique. It is wonderful. It is a Stefan Feld glorious game that belongs in the Hall of Fame of board games. And this version I am so thrilled with, guys. And you know what? It's one of the few that I didn't film myself unboxing, and I'm kicking myself for it because I actually had really good things to say as I unboxed it. I got the neoprene mat, the little miniatures, the acrylic tokens. It looks nice. Everything's beautiful about it. I've already played some of the expansions. I don't know if you guys have played Castles of Burgundy. If you haven't, shame on you, and you should just be shot in the head with a gun. A Nerf gun.
There
Nerf
you go.
gun. Yes. Just I wanted to clarify. But you should play it. If you haven't had a chance to play it, you should play Castles of Burgundy and come play my deluxe edition. I'm so thrilled with it. It's just I can't even tell you how thrilled I am with this game. And I'm more convinced than ever that I want to take my shelf and reduce the size of it and just really pimp out the games that I love. I really want to bling them out, pimp them out. Get what's it called with when the girls put the jewels on the case, the bedazzling.
Bedazzle.
I want to bedazzle things. That's right. Look at
Andy,
me.
you bedazzle me every time you talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Wow. All right. Well, after that, I feel like you had a Michael Scott moment there where it just got awkward. And instead of turning around, you just went straight into the awkward.
Go right into it.
Absolutely.
So good job, Michael Scott.
Embrace the awkward.
All right. Well, it's been a while, guys, but we finally have some birthdays. So let's end this show strong. And let's talk about some of these great games that have turned
However many
have turned an age.
You're older.
That's right.
Specifically
I'm going to talk about my
Munchkin.
favorite 7-year-old tonight, and it's not my son Moses. It's Role Player. Role Player turned 7 years old. It was on this day in 2016. Moses, you're a close second. Don't worry.
I'm going to talk about Munchkin, baby. Munchkin was my gateway game. We have every single set ever made up until Axe Cop, and then I was like, I'm done with Munchkin. But you know, it is 22 years old, and that's some longevity in this industry.
True. Back in 2018, a really cool game came out called Western Legends. At least I assume it's really cool. It's insane that I have not played this game. I love Westerns. I love theme. I love all that stuff. If you have Western Legends and you know me, let's play sometime, please. It's 5 years old today. It's going to be an old game by the time I play it. Let's hope not.
Crazy. 5 years?
I know.
And my game's Kalis, one that's almost as old as Munchkin and infinitely better. It is 18 years old this month. I was hoping to play it last night over with Daniel and Randy.
There you go.
I left it there, exactly. I showed up with it in hand, was excited for it, and instead was forced to play a very, very mid Marvel co-op.
Dagger, baby.
Yep.
Kalis is good stuff.
It was very
mid.
Very mid.
Kalis could put
Really mid.
if we had to come up with a new spokesperson and we weren't going to use Hansa anymore, the guy from Kalis would be pretty good too.
Oh yeah. Well, he's made a few appearances, if you recall.
That is true.
Yes,
It's true.
he's in the Noah's commercial, and he's also he was a person in the balcony making fun of us at one time.
Ah, that's right.
That's
One of
right.
those Muppet guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Guys, as always, we love performing for you. We love being able to bring you some hopefully some entertainment and a lot of stupidity. We want to thank all of our wonderful viewers out there. Remember to tap, like, and subscribe. And we would sure love it if you would participate in the comments section and also join us on our Facebook group, Around the Board. And you can send us emails to mail@aroundtheboard.net. Join us next time as we continue to make fools of ourselves and talk about tabletop gaming. Right here,
Card.
Around the Board.
I think it's the Two of Hearts. Oh, I got it.
I love you, Rob.
Yep, this should have won me the game right here. Just wait till
Ace of
next time.
Hearts.
It'll be even better.
Oh, clubs. I actually got it wrong.
Shucks.
I love you
Two of
too.
spades.
Andy.
Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, for one that you looked at. That's pretty good.